Good morning. I'm Alina Islam, and I'm a mining analyst here at Red Cloud Securities. Thank you very much for joining us today. I am very excited to present Solis Minerals to you, a battery metals explorer in South America, and to talk about its current copper projects in Peru, as well as upcoming plans. We have Matt Boyce, CEO. I know you're going to have a lot of questions after the presentation, so please put your questions into the chat box and we'll get through as many as we can. Before we get started, I do need to mention the fine print. For Solis Minerals, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this webinar. Please read the cautionary note on page 2 of the Solis Minerals corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this webinar does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Solis Minerals specific disclosures. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Matt. Please take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks very much for the intro, and thanks very much for inviting us on again. It's always a pleasure. I guess, cautious statement, as you said, everyone can have a good read of that, and then we'll just move on to what's important, which is basically what we're doing in South America. I guess Australian exploration in South America. I mean, Solis is basically an Australian company with a sister company of Latin Resources, which has had massive success in Brazil. The idea with Solis was to replicate pretty much what Latin have done, but also look at investing in other commodities such as copper and also and the other battery metals, which may be at the fore in South America. So we're really focusing on making sure we acquire as much ground and in as many, prospective jurisdictions as we can. So in the last 12 to 18 months, we've looked at Bahia, we've looked at Minas Gerais, we've looked at also other jurisdictions in South America, especially Brazil, for lithium. And as lithium has come off, especially as the market has cooled down, we've also looked at expanding our copper portfolio in Peru. And Peru it's actually moved in a really good direction for us because we started off with a very small footprint of about 14,000 hectares in Peru. We've actually grown that to about 45,000 hectares in the last year. And in an area where we think we've got the expertise and the capacity to actually find something of potential and something of significance. So if we move on to, I guess, the focus for everybody is where the copper price and where the metal prices are going. Solis has to move fairly quickly to sort of refocus itself in the short term. We still believe in the lithium market as a whole, but the copper price trend is something that we can't ignore. We're lucky enough to have, tenements and land positions over both copper and lithium assets in Brazil and also in Peru. So at this present moment, we're utilising our assets and our cash position to focus on copper. We think that's going to give us the best results in the next 6 to 12 months. We're still not losing focus on lithium, but as you can see, the market, being in the state it is, it's probably better that we focus on a metal that gives us the most leverage in the short term. And with copper being at around $11,000 a ton today, it's obviously a place we want to be and want to continue to look at, considering the portfolio of assets we have. We're lucky enough to have a guy on the board and a guy named by Mike Parker, who spent a long time with a group called a mining company called First Quantum, who, as most of you know, have done extremely well in Peru and in South America in general. And Mike came on board when we set up Solis a couple of years ago, and his focus has been on getting away from the general Cordillera area, which is the main Andes area where you've got the main deposit, but looking down on what we call the coastal belt. And what we've been able to do over the last year is to peg around about 45,000 hectares of really prospective ground in this coastal belt. Coastal belt basically sits between sort of like a Western batholith, and pretty much you look at how the Andes form and how you're getting all of these porphyries popping up along the Andes. Basically, the western coastal belt is exactly the same thing. It just emulates exactly the same geology, exactly the same sort of mineralized structure you're seeing up in the Andes, only that it's very, very underexplored. And what we see here is we've got tenements that are sitting in exactly the right position, which is just sort of this behind that sort of subduction zone that you're seeing, and where you're expecting porphyries to pop up along this belt. We're seeing that we're getting mineralization at surface. So we're seeing copper mineralization at surface, gold mineralization at surface. We're getting these really fantastic geophysical anomalies all along this belt and all within our tenement areas. And we're seeing a lot of areas still free. So it looks like it's an area where it offers really high potential upside, high prospectivity, and also we're close to the coast. So one thing is we're not drilling at 4,800 metres above sea level, we're drilling at 1,200 metres above sea level. We're in driving distance of third-party ports, we're in driving distance of infrastructure, we've got towns, we've got people, we've got everything we need, and it's unexplored. So we see this as a massive opportunity for Solis in the near term. We've started this is the new ground position we picked up, which is basically all this ground within here, which was previously held by a group called Anaconda, which people are fairly familiar with. We've mapped the area, we've done surface reconnaissance of the area, and we've been lucky enough to pick up 6,500 hectares of previously undrilled ground with copper mineralization at surface. I mean, as a junior explorer, that's all that you really want. If you can find something that's not a drill hole in it, it's got copper mineralization at surface, it's been unexplored by majors, it's been held tightly, but nothing's been done for the last 20 years. That's the sort of ground you want to be picking up. And we're lucky enough to be able to pick that up. We've almost got a contiguous land holding now of about 45,000 hectares there on the western coast of Peru. We see it as being a major unexplored prospective area. And in the next sort of 6 to 12 months, it's basically going to be the focus of Solis and the focus of Solis in Peru. We have started all our EIAs, we've started all our mapping, we've started all our sort of low-cost magnetic surveys, stuff that's not going to be invasive until the Peruvian mining ministry gives us the go-ahead basically to drill some holes in it, which is what we're waiting for. It's been a long, slow sort of process, and it is for anyone who's experienced with Peruvian exploration, as it takes a while before you can get your drawings on the ground. But we've been able to develop some really fantastic targets, and one of those is this is what we call Chancho Palo, which is basically not asking why, but it's called pig on a stick for some reason. But Chancho Palo is Elon Ortho, which is an asset that's been in Solis for the last 3 years. We've been able to carry out some really good geophysical work over the last 12 months on it. Some reprocessing of old geophysics and also some UIP and other bits and pieces that have basically developed some really fantastic targets. So we've got a porphyry style target, an IOCG style target on the one asset. We've commenced the EIA, which is basically the process you need to be able to get a permission to drill, and hopefully, I'm not going to give any timelines, but hopefully by the end of the year or early next year, those assets will be ready to drill. It's a slow process, I've said. And there's coincident targets. There's coincident geophysical mag anomalies, geophysical IP anomalies, and there's mineralization at surface. So it's one of the 3 main targets we now have in Peru to start drilling. The second one is El Oeste, which, El Oeste again looks fantastic. We've got mineralization within 100 to 300 meters of the surface of what we think is mineralization. We've got fantastic end-use polarization targets. We've got mineralization surface. We've got a coincident magnetic aluminum surface, and we've got mineralization surface. All we do now is a drill permit to put some holes in it, and we're looking at massive porphyry targets. We're not looking at small VMS style stuff. We're looking at things that could be emulate what's already there in Peru. So billion-ton targets. We're not looking at small assets. We're looking at things that can really have some major impact. So it's all in line for the end of the year for Solis to start drilling, and hopefully these permits can be fast forward as fast as we can so that we can get our rigs on the ground. A new piece of ground, to give you an idea, we picked up this ground as another couple of thousand hectares recently. We ran a drone survey over the ground pretty much straight away. It sits between. This is in a fantastic original setting. It's basically an original fault you can see running up through this area on the northeast southwest area, and this whole chamber area is vacant. And we ran a drone survey and we've got this massive phenomenon. So again, this is applied for ground, so it'll take us a while, 5 to 6 months before this ground gets actually granted. But it gives us a pipeline of projects in Peru where we can basically just line them up one after the other and start drilling them off. And we have the funds in the bank, we have the people on the ground, and so I think we're fairly well positioned to make sure that we make the best of what we can on those particular assets. Cinto is more of a classic, what you'd expect Peru, Chilean style target. It's located sort of 15 kilometers southeast of Tocopilla, and everyone knows that Tocopilla is a massive copper porphyry deposit. It's on a regional fault. It has copper at surface. There's two guys there standing on some malachite outcrop, which is on top of Cinto. And it's in a similar area where the communities and local people have actually, I guess, benefited majorly from supporting mining operations in the area. So there's a lot of things in its favour. We're initiating community engagement at the moment and looking to push Cinto to the point where we have EIA drill permits as quickly as possible. And hopefully somewhere in the new year, then we'll have drills on the ground in Cinto as well. So a lot of projects lining up, Hilo Norte, Hilo Este, Cinto, and then we have all of the other acquisitions now that we've acquired, especially the Exa Anaconda ground. There's going to be a lot of news coming out of Peru in the next 6 to 12 months, and most of it will be basically what we've got left to do is now surface mapping and some geochem and basically drilling. And 60-70% of the project is already ready for that. They're already drill ready, so we just basically need to wait until we get the permissions to actually put the holes in the ground. Going back to Brazil, as you should be following Solis, we've had 3 attempts in Brazil now. We've drilled off the Estrella, the Mina Vermelha, and the Jaguar targets, and not. I guess the expectations were higher than what we achieved in a certain sense, but we don't think Borborema in Brazil is anywhere near off the table. There's still a lot of lithium potential there. As a group, I think 80% of our time in Brazil is spent looking at acquisitions of new projects. It's looking at how we can bring in an asset that replicates what Latin have done. How we can get into Minas Gerais and bring something onto the table that gives us that potential to grow this company to the $500 million market cap that we aspire to be. Minas Gerais is still very much underexplored. We still feel that there's massive potential there. Borborema itself is an underexplored region. We've gone back to first base. We've gone up to basics in Borborema with the grassroots exploration all through Borborema. We feel that this whole province cannot be devoid of another Salinas or another Sigma. We think that there is potential here. We just need to make sure that we're in the right area. It's a very big learning curve for us, Borborema, but we still feel there's massive potential there. In the meantime, though, I can't emphasize this enough that Solis is spending a massive amount of time in looking at new acquisitions and potential new acquisitions would give us, put us back into that into the game where we're looking at that 20 to 50 million ton target as we were before with Jaguar and other assets. So really, where Solis is going to be in the next 6 to 12 months is it's a company which is it's basically looking at becoming a lot more solid in the fact that we're looking at bringing on an asset that can bring our lithium assets up, but focusing on copper in the short term and short and long term, so that we can basically concrete some value in the company that we have. So to summarise, that's the market price over the last 12 months. Everyone knows around. I guess the key point here is that we've still got $5 million in cash in hand. We still have a massive, I guess, benefit in the fact that Latin Resources is our major shareholder and will be for the foreseeable future. And we have the support of Latin country to help us bring in potential assets and producing new acquisitions over the short period, over the long term. And we're still looking at both copper and lithium. There really isn't anything else that the company is focusing on in the short term. We believe these two battery metals are the most important assets, most important metals that we can see in the short term. And lithium is in a bit of a massive hole at the moment, but I think it will come out of that, and copper will be strong for a long period of time. Thank you very much for your time, and again, thank you to Red Cloud for hosting this event. And any questions, please fire away.
Thanks a lot, Matt, for introducing us to Solis. So we can get started on the questions now. Just as a reminder to everyone on the line, you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. So Matt, we've already got a few questions here. So the first one, at the upcoming Brazilian Lithium Summit in 2 weeks' time, will you have an update to share on new lithium projects?
On the new lithium project, we hope so. I guess fingers crossed that we'll be able to present something in the short term, but I can't promise anything. I think realistically, things are in motion, and hopefully the company can do that, but otherwise, no.
Okay. Next question. What will you be doing to get some share price appreciation in the short term? For example, directors buying on the market or in the market, buying from brokers, funds, etc. Yeah,
I think, look, the directors, I mean, especially myself, we've purchased a significant amount of shares on the market. In the short term, the company, as I said, look, really the focus of the company is trying to get something into the company which pushes the share price up. That's obviously the one and only focus of the company. We don't spend any money on anything that's not directly engaged at adding value to the company and its assets. I myself put a lot of money into the company and believe in what we can do, and we just need to make sure that we bring one of those assets in, and hopefully that is I guess that reflects in the market price. But at the moment, I think there's a lot of people in the market who are struggling in any commodity, and hopefully we can just bring something along the line.
All right. So next question: is Solis still looking for a flagship project, as indicated in the news releases? And there are follow-up questions to that, but I'll get to it after.
Yeah, obviously we're looking for a flagship project. The methodology that Solis applies to looking at projects is we have a cheap earn-in, and then we invest that shareholders' money above all into drilling those assets and trying to finding something that has real value. And yeah, we're still looking for a flagship project. We still have projects in Peru which we think are going to be, they have potential to be excellent, potentially to be amazing. But the problem is, at the moment, you have the lithium market, which is extremely depressed. You look at any lithium company across the board at the moment, and it's very, very difficult for a junior to be raising money even on fantastic results. You look at Latin, for example, today, which put an 80 million ton resource, and the share price went down. So it's not that we're not looking at yes, we are looking to pick up a flagship project, but then again, I guess the conditions on the acquisition need to be something that we think reflects the best investment for our shareholders as well. We're not just going to go and spend money on that, something that we don't think is worthwhile. I understand the frustration, but it's just it's not that easy to bring a good asset into a company that we think is going to be worthwhile in the long term.
Okay, what's your cash position and what's the current burn rate?
Sorry, what's the what?
What's the cash position and what's your current burn rate?
Oh, the burn rate, we're at about $5 million at the moment. Burn rates are roughly 300,000 a month, thereabouts, depending on what we drill. I guess the TSX listing and the ASX listing and just our general holding costs. We don't have a lot of employees in Solis. We have very few people on the ground. We try and make sure that while we're not drilling an asset, then our costs come down. We try and make sure that any expenditure goes into the ground. So the major amount of expenditure goes in the ground when we're drilling, and then we pull back money when we're waiting. Drilling and assay cost basically is most of our costs. The Canadian Stock Exchange is a cost for us. TSX is a cost for us, and we need to keep those obviously up in front, and we need to make sure that they're being paid. But predominantly around about $300,000, $200,000 to $300,000 a month the burn rate. But that all depends on assets, and we'd like that burn rate to be much higher. And honestly, we'd like to have an asset we can drill, 4,000 to 5,000 meters a month into, but at the moment we don't have that.
Okay, any chance of looking at silver as a commodity?
We've never looked at silver as a commodity. It's never been on our radar. We've been lithium focused and copper focused from the outset, so no.
Is Latin still a big shareholder of Solis?
Yes, 15%.
Okay. How many IR groups are involved with Solis to promote the story?
We have 3. We have Next Investors or Stocks Digital. We have yourselves with Red Cloud, and we also have Citadel and Magnus out of Perth. So there's 3 major ones.
Okay. There's another question here. In Brazil, in lithium, what project is priority for exploring?
Really, at the moment, it's exploration ground in Borborema. That's our focus, and until we can find, I think, look, obviously Brazil hasn't performed in the way that Solis would like, but we would like to, if we can, and we're trying to at the moment, is pick up some ground in Minas Gerais, which we're really the focus of, I guess. When you stand back and look at what's happened in Brazil over the last 3 years, who's had the most success and where they've had that success has been in Minas Gerais. It's been in that particular area, like the Sigmas, the Latins, and then the other couple of Canadian companies that have done well. That is the area where you want to have a footprint, and that's where we're focusing on trying to pick up a piece of ground, which is, I guess, in terms it makes sense. So we don't want to overpay, to not hamstring ourselves to drilling out an asset that's not going to make sense for our shareholders. So I think Minas Gerais is where we're going to focus.
Okay, there are a couple of questions here, Matt, but maybe, I think they're all trying to get to the same thing on what are some of your next catalysts? Like, what should shareholders be looking forward to?
Look, obviously, it's going to be drill permits in Peru. It's going to be updates on asset acquisitions in Peru and Brazil, and that's really what's going to drive where we're going to be in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay, well, I think that's it for the Q&A portion of the webinar. Matt, thank you so much for taking time to host this webinar with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk soon.
Just as a reminder for our audience, our next webinar will feature Broad Ahead Lithium, and that's on June 5th at 11 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in with us, everyone. Have a great day.